let's get right to the heart of the conversation, everyone. I'm joined by Dr. Asma'u Benzes Leo. Hopefully I pronounced the middle name properly. She's the Executive Director, Center for Non-Violence and Gender Advocacy in Nigeria. She doubles as Public Governance and Leadership Analyst. I can say thank you enough in spite of your busy schedule for making it down to the studio this morning.
Thank you, It's my pleasure to be here. And good morning, viewer.
Okay, so I want us to start from somewhere. This is a bit political, but I'm sure it's something you can relate with as a woman. Since 1999, we've not had an elected female governor. Is that supposed to be a source of concern?
Yeah, for sure. It is a source of concern, not just to women themselves, but it should be a thing of concern to every Nigerian, right-thinking Nigerian. Because if you look at it demographically, Nigerian women constitute almost 50% of the population, and nothing without us is for us. So there should be need for women to be represented, especially in the high decision-making bodies in the country, especially being a governor, being a president, vice president, key positions within the parliament. Women should be able to occupy that. We almost got close. You know, in 2023 elections, we were almost there. Adamawa State. And that's coincidentally, it was my state. We almost got there. So, but I don't know what happened. We just found ourselves where we are. But I think with massive sensitization, with massive grassroots mobilization, in 2027, hopefully, we will see a female governor emerge, and who knows, even the presidency.
A lot of people also argue, including women, they say one of the challenges women have to grapple with every other time is that they don't have as much support from amongst the women themselves as they would normally, they should normally have. Are women actually supporting women beyond the rhetoric we see on social media?
What you see is just a product of patriarchy. Women, from the time we were born, we were socialized to be a subordinate. So when you see women, not that we don't support each other, a lot of Nigerian women support each other, but the men support us. And if men don't support women, I don't see how women can support women. Because we have fathers who are men and who influence even your thinking. You have husbands who are men and they influence your thinking. You have colleagues, you have even children and relations who are men. And remember, this has to do with power dynamics. Who owns the resources? Who controls gender roles? These are men. So it translates from what we see in the home front into public spaces, even into governance. So it's not the fault of women. When we hear this narrative, it's just victim blaming. We blame us victims for being our own problem. But how do you think we are our problem? The society is the problem. Do we appreciate the potential of women? Do we see women as having the capacity to govern? That is the issue at stake. It's not that we cannot do it. And there are a lot of women that sincerely want to support women. And I see that women coming together, mobilizing, sensitizing others to vote for women. But when it comes to the polls, what happened? They are being victimized through electoral violence. They are being victimized and also incentivized by a lot of behavior buying. And you know, this is also entrenching poverty. Women are poor. When you look at the metrics, economic metrics, women are at the lower point of the poverty line. So when they come to entice women with money, entice women and to also enforce the patriarchy and also use electoral violence against women, you see women, I tell you the truth, I've been an election observer for a very long time. And when you go to the polls, what you see is that we see electoral talks. You understand? Young people coming to intimidate you to either vote for a particular party or a particular candidate, or else you get divorced from your home, or they even ostracize you, or they even attack you and your children. In Kogi, there was a woman, Salome. You know what happened in Kogi election some years back? This woman was a woman leader in a particular party, and she was intimidated to the extent that she was killed, burnt in her own house. So this is
that was a very pathetic story.
Exactly.
I want us to talk about, not that you mentioned political parties, because they also have their internal issues. When you look at political parties across board, how receptive are they to women participation? Because it still appears to be all men affairs within the political parties themselves.
That is where we have a problem. Like I always say, the intra-party system has to also be inclusive.
Right.
You know, they feel the exclusive right of women to be within that party space is to assign them responsibility like the women leader, the youth leader, and that's where.
But the women seem happy with that.
It's not about happy. You have to start somewhere.
Right.
My brother, you have to start somewhere. If you are in a room like this and all they can give you at the table is just to be, let's just start from the women leader. We are not
And made up.
Yes, from there they're moving. You understand me? But what they do internally, they have to create, even INEC, I think the responsibility of electoral monitoring bodies here is that you have to create this internally. There has to be a law that every political party should assign, particular positions to women. Then within the National Assembly, there has to be a law. If you remember in 2023, that was last year, right? But before the elections, there was this bill that was introduced in the House in terms of quota system, affirmative action, and also 111 seats for women to occupy. But what happened to those laws? One day we just woke up, 5 gender bills were thrown out of the National Assembly. How do we assign?
So we have the men to thank for that.
Yeah, we have them to, is it to thank them or to blame them for that? Do you understand me? Other countries like Rwanda that we usually cite as a model, how do they get to where they are in terms of women participation? They are not in parliament than the men. In Rwanda, we just emerged from the blues. They had laws, they had legislative policies that had brought women to where they are today. Nigeria is not ready. Nigeria is not willing. And it's not just about the men, but also the women. Are we ready? That is just the question.
It's interesting. Let's talk about education. Is it enough? Is formal education enough? Is it sufficient for effective participation by women?
I say no.
Leadership.
I say no. It doesn't have to be. It is a prerequisite. It should be a prerequisite for leadership because you have to be enlightened. You have to know both your literacy and numerical whatever that entails within the formal education sector for you to even evolve to become a credible politician. But I tell you the truth, I have seen women that were not formally educated, but were built their capacity through local news, through interfacing with people at the grassroots. Politics is all about number. Politics is all about acceptance. There are people women that are very educated, highly educated, but they don't have street credibility. They don't have the acceptance of the grassroots in terms of even election or aspiring. So we have to combine the two. You need both the formal and the informal education for you to be a seasoned politician, especially a woman politician in Nigeria.
A lot of persons say we are not lacking in laws as far as women participation, equity for women is concerned. In fact, they say that the challenge we have is the implementation of those laws and policies around women participation. So I'm not aware you're a lawyer, but how do you also work around the legal framework to be able to improve?
For me, the legal framework are there, just few of them, but they are not sufficient.
Right.
When we talk about the national gender policy, within the national gender policy, which took a cue from the Beijing Platform of Action, took a cue from CEDAW, that's the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women.
Right.
What those things we are talking about is that affirmative action should be given to women in both elective and appointed position. But the Beijing platform assigned 30%. Nigeria within the national gender policy assigned 65%. So if we can't just get 35%, we have to start somewhere.
That's right.
And it has to come from laws, like you said. Then what happened to the 5 bills that were within the National Assembly? They've been thrown out. So if we say we have laws for any other thing, but we don't have laws for inclusion, we don't have laws for women empowerment, and we don't have laws for gender equality. And that's why women advocates like us are saying these laws have to be put in place if we are serious about empowering women and not just paying lip service.
Now that we're talking about women, I see somebody like Betta Edu, who has been suspended by the president for allegations of impropriety in office. Suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs. People say it will appear that even women have not done enough in that regard to also do their own findings, some sort of due diligence, because the woman has said time and again that she was framed, that all of those allegations are baseless and so on and so forth. Do women pay attention for a second to issues like that, especially since the person involved is a woman too?
I think political education is very important.
Sure.
For every woman, before you aspire, you have to know the dynamics. The political space is toxic. The political space is masculine. The the political space is a contest. So you cannot come there unprepared.
Do you think she was not prepared?
Well, I cannot say she's unprepared because I don't know her trajectory as much. But I knew that she has grown through the ranks to be where she is as a women leader, as a youth leader in her party. And I know that lady doesn't lack capacity. But you know, when you are dining with wolves, when you are dining in a space that is toxic, so to say, you understand, power is not given, power is taken. You have to have your strategy, you have to be informed, you have to put your eyes on the ground to know the intrigues happening within that space. And I think that's where women take it for granted. Men are strategic.
Right.
They know how to play their games and they work within the cycles and their networks. Women, when you are there, it is important to also build other women as advisors, people that will look out for your good, people that will tell you what you need to do part-time. And that is why women always, you know, when you are being elected, you also want to, I don't know, you want to renounce with patriarchy. You want to be as a man. You are a woman in a woman's skin, but in your thinking, you become a man. So that you become a man and you align to the masculine, provision within the system. You understand? Women politicians should learn to be women. Bring into leadership the feminine, authentic leadership skills into governance. We are known to be empathic. We are known to be confident. We are known to be sensitive. Do you know it's only a woman that when she comes to this room, she can tell you before you open your eyes, just a look around, she can tell you what is happening even without her being here for a long time. So that emotional intelligence, that sensitivity should not just be for the home, should not just be for your children and your husband, it should also be within governance. You have to be sensitive. How do you relate to people? Because in Nigeria, not just within political space, even within governance, you are working with civil servants. And I tell you it stood, if you are a civil servant or a politician working with the civil servant, there is also a political dimension to that. You have to align because they bring to you their demands. They tell you, okay, before you were here, madam, this was what we were doing, this is how we have done it, and you trust them. Let them just throw in the towel like that. They strategize. They get somebody within the system that is an ally, that will look out for their good. If they are going left, the person will align and correct them, this is how you should do. But unfortunately, we just trust everybody because that's our instinct, the mother instinct and the feminine instinct. And we find ourselves being always dragged. It's not only data. We have seen Patricia Ete. We have seen women like Obi Ezekosili. We have seen women that have done great to do the late
blessed memory.
Blessed memory. We've seen a lot of women, once you step into that role, it ceases to be a woman. Arrows are at you. People are attacking you. They want to see you fail.
Obviously, that's the reason you said women should come prepared.
Yes, preparedness is very important, even in governance and politics.
I can imagine. We're taking a quick break, everyone. We're coming back shortly to wrap up this conversation with my guests. Do stay with us. I was going to ask you this before the break, but better late than never. People also talk about constraints for women occasioned by our cultural and traditional practices. How do we stick with our tradition, our culture, while women still go ahead to shatter the so-called glass ceiling?
Well, in Africa, you know, we are a continent that is really guided by norms and values. Some might be positive social norms, some might be negative. And most of the times when it comes to women in leadership, it's usually the negative social norm that takes root, where you are told that a woman cannot be a leader.
That's right.
A woman cannot rule over a man. And that's not just it. Some people use religion to also make it a case that the religious tenets does not allow a woman to lead, that it's only a man that is supposed to be the head, and then the woman becomes the tail, or I don't know how.
She has to be a part of the body.
Yes, somehow, whether the tail or the lip, I don't know. But you know, these social norms haven't helped us. And I always cite examples of some countries that are even religious, not a secular nation, but religious nation, like Pakistan. Pakistan has had one of the best presidents as a woman, and this is an Islamic country. Almost 95%, I think 90 to 95% Muslims. So what do you say about that? If you come to a country in Africa, you hardly see a woman becoming either a governor or a president because your culture says so. So no matter how you try to convince our religious leaders who are our community leaders, traditional leaders who happen to be the gatekeepers, the community influencers, except they are able to accept this norm that women also have a place in leadership, we can go far. Because after doing all that you need to do for as a woman, you mobilize your people, you've been able to, campaign just like the man. When it comes to the time when you should be elected, a traditional ruler will just come out and say, sorry, my people, my adherents, don't vote for this woman. Because in our culture, in this place, no woman has ever led us. For instance, one of the issues we have in Nigeria is that how can somebody become a governor, a woman become a governor, and then the traditional ruler, who is the paramount traditional ruler within the state, will not bow to you. Or a woman will have decision in terms of the local government, the chieftaincy issues. A woman cannot hold that position for now. And then this was just the small issues that really brought her down.
Can we ever surmount those issues from what you see?
It's possible. It's possible. I think we need commitment and political will. Commitment from the side of the traditional rulers, advocacy, massive advocacy, and also enlightenment. You need to build the capacity of these rulers. You need to build the capacity of both the religious and the traditional rulers to know that governance is not an exclusive right of few. That when women lead, they bring different perspectives, they bring changes, not just to the community, to the family, and even to the children. There is a popular adage that says, when you educate a woman, you educate a nation. And that's very true in every sense of the word.
If you look at today, across the world, let's say we start from Nigeria, you see women who have moved through the ranks, they become CEOs of some global brands and all of that. We've seen Nigerian women go abroad to become CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. How can these women at some point bring all of these competence, skill sets, and experiences into the public space?
It's all creating an enabling environment. When you create an enabling environment, that's what it does. It gives you confidence that yes, your expertise, your capacity is needed and is appreciated. So mostly when we know that, look at women like Madam Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. You can't undermine that woman's capacity when it comes to government. That woman can lead, if she can lead the World Bank, lead World Trade Organization. Is it Nigeria she cannot lead? But the issue is not that the capacity is lacking within women. It is the enabling environment for us to thrive and also to have this, competitive advantage whereby we can compete favorably with the men without any form of discrimination, and then whoever emerges becomes what he wants to become. But we don't have it here. We are always being thrown out because of sentiment, either religious sentiment, cultural sentiment. Maybe they say, okay, you need to go and take care of your children instead of you just minding yourself with business of governance. A woman's place is in the kitchen, things like that. It doesn't help us. I remember our former president even making a joke that a woman's place is in the other room. And most of the times, the politicians were using it in their campaign that women's place is in the other room. And who says that a woman's place cannot be in the bedroom? We can be anywhere we want to be.
I want us to talk about young people, young girls. Now we talk about the Gen Zs, right? And then it raises the concern around mentoring and role modeling for young girls. When you look at these Gen Zs today, do they look like they even understand or will ever understand the conversation around women participation?
They do, even more than you think. In fact, they are more interested in governance more than you think we do. Because I've been involved in, women leadership and then mentorship for young or aspiring or emerging female leaders. And what you always see is that they don't follow the norm.
Right.
These guys are change makers. These guys are, dynamic in their approach, and they are people that you cannot box. Their thinking is, just like their era, technological era.
Very unconventional and disruptive.
Exactly. That's the disruptive approach. That's what they use. So if for us, in our generation, we can tolerate this, I tell you, in the next 10, 15, 20 years, the ball, the ball will change. The ball game will change, because even their counterpart, the men, you understand, when you look at the Gen Z boys and the Gen Z girls, there's this kind of understanding, diversity, inclusion, gender equality. They don't see it as an issue. That is why even when you talk about other sexes or whatever, it doesn't concern them. What they want, they are goal-getters. When they set a goal, they pursue it and they achieve it, in spite of whether you're a man or a woman. It is in our time that discrimination is endangered. It is our time that marginalization of women is acceptable. But I tell you, with the way they are going, in the next coming years, we will not see it happening the way it's happening to us.
Gender violence, gender-based violence, as they call it, GBV, has also been a concern for women. A lot of women can focus because they've been subjected to this violence, either within marriage or outside of it. Sometimes by the brothers, by the persons they are in relationship with, in most cases by their husbands. How can women win the war against gender-based violence and be able to stay on track to keep the eye on the ball?
Gender-based violence is endemic. Gender-based violence is unacceptable, and unfortunately, 1 in every 3 women in the world is affected by gender-based violence, whether psychologically, whether physically, whether culturally, even in the workspace or in the public space, so to say. Women suffer violence. And you may ask, how does this violence occur? It occurs everywhere and by anyone. Sometimes you see, it's only women that are poor, the women in the rural areas that suffer violence. No, even the high and the mighty suffer violence. Violence is about power relations. Violence is about one person dominating the other. And they do that targeting a particular gender. So that's why we call it gender-based violence. And in this case, women are always at the recipient end, because in terms of physical strength, men are stronger. In terms of emotional, you understand, stability, women are stronger. So when a woman will decide to exert her authority, some men cannot take it.
Right.
Some men think the only way I can silence this woman, the only way I can make her obey me, the only way I can subdue her is for her to suffer violence. Because as soon as I exert my power, my physical strength on her, she will shrink, and then I begin to rule and have dominance over her. But the effect is what people don't know. Violence against women and girl child, even the boy child, goes through all their lifespan. Some women today cannot marry. Some women cannot achieve their dreams and their goals, aspirations in life because of the violence they suffered even when they were children. So, and the cause of it has cost, for instance, in the United States, there is a statistics that said every year it costs the US almost $400 billion just for the cause of domestic violence. You know what that does to the economy? Women, if you suffer violence, you cannot be able to go to work. That means you can't earn a living. And in some offices, when you don't go, you lose your paycheck for the day or for the month. Right. And that is how, we begin to recycle that space, or recycle poverty within a generation.
Now, let's talk about women-owned businesses in Nigeria right now. We see that growing. We're seeing an ecosystem of women-owned businesses across this country, whether in agriculture, in tech, in consulting, and so on and so forth. But we're also in an economy now that is very troubled. They say the economy is in the woods and stuff like that. How is that also impacting women, and how are women able to find their way around these challenging times?
Really, the economy is biting hard more on women, because even before the economic downturn, women have been at the lower rank or lower level of the economic indices. If you look at it, small and medium scale, small and medium enterprises, women are mostly, at the informal economy.
That's right.
And at the microeconomic level. So how does this entire economic problem affect them? It does. They need to feed their children. They need to send children to school. They need to take care of their health, because we know that maternal and infant mortality is on the rise. We don't have good healthcare systems, and we don't even have enough access to land that women could farm. men own lands in this part of the world. So women, when you see a woman owning a land, it's either that land has been leased to her, or the land has been inherited, but somebody is controlling it. That is to say, the profit from the land, the harvest, goes to somebody else. She is just a producer, there's a middleman, and ultimately it's either her husband, her uncle, or somebody that will control the person from that farmland. So women are not given the opportunity to control their own resources. Somebody else controls that for them. And now that the economy is like this, if I don't control what I earned, then what happens to me?
Right.
That is even in the informal sector, right? Coming even to the civil service or public service or even the private sector, some men control the salaries of their wives. Before your salary comes, you have to be accountable to the man. That means you don't have a right to spend a dime without him knowing.
So he gives you handouts.
Exactly, out of what you legitimately earned, then you are given peanuts, and that is not fair. And you know its impact also on the economy. How do you survive? How do you take care of your personal?
Well, you don't even have access to disposable, disposable income.
Exactly my point. You understand? So these are issues that we have to look at. We have to have inclusive financial policies whereby the women could also own businesses. And even in terms of loans, in terms of grants, we find it very hard. Some people will say, some banks will say you have to bring your husband. Your guarantor has to be a male factor. Your guarantor has to be a male factor. Men don't suffer that. If a man needs a loan for his business of scale, he just goes to the bank and does what he wants to do, his transaction, and is given if he's qualified. But for women, we put stringent and very strict rules that sometimes even makes it impossible for them to gain access to finance, and that is very bad. Another thing is also financial literacy. Women are not, some women are not thrown into business, so they don't even know what it takes to do business, to earn, and even to save. Most women don't even have access to bank account. So how do they even save in the long run? We see them putting money, especially in the under their pillows or under their beds. And at the end of the day, the man becomes the controller, because if you are not there, something happens. He goes to take the entire
without accountability.
Of course, in fact, by force. So these are the issues we are talking about.
I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Dr. Asmau Benzis Leo, for coming to share with us this morning about issues affecting women and what we can do as a society to win them. Thank you so much. We appreciate it for your time.
It's my pleasure, Uri, and thank you for listening, viewer.
And that's what we're living in this morning. Queen Agaba, myself, and the entire production team here in Abuja say a big thank you to, we live in the hands of Anthony Momodu, who has a package for us by way of sports update.